let's talk about what it's going to look like going forward for real estate agents who have listings to sell. So as the real estate market continues to shift, we are moving away from what we've seen over the last couple of years, which was a seller frenzy, the likes of which most of us have never seen before. And as we shift more towards normality in the real estate market, I'm hearing a lot of fear from real estate agents who are wondering how they need to pivot their business strategies to remain successful in this business. Even in the Market Authority Academy, where we're doing a lot of coaching, from time to time I'm hearing, Stephanie, my listing has been on the market for 19 days. Oh no, my listing has been on the market for almost a month. What do I do? Listen, when I got into the business, we were in a pretty balanced market, and it used to take months for a listing to sell, right? If we're looking at normal conditions in most geographical areas, what we actually look to measure is the days of inventory on the market, meaning that number is the days representative of if there had been no other new listings after the point of today, how long would it take to sell the amount of inventory that is currently listed active on the market. In most balanced markets, that number is anywhere from 4 to 6 months. That is a normal real estate environment. And for a lot of the agents who have been around for 10, 15, 20 years, they've seen those kind of conditions. And that's really where agents like me, that's our time to shine. Because at that point, we are not necessarily worried about how to field 20 offers at a time and how to manage with 60 showings on a listing. Instead, we're really focusing on marketing our listings, which is truthfully what we're hired to do in the first place. And so I wanted to talk about this today because I'm just hearing so much chatter on social media and in different groups that I'm in about what do we do now that the market is slowing down? Well, how do we remain competitive? How do we stand out? You do what you're meant to do in the first place, which is market the listing as well as you can, because real estate at the end of the day is still a marketplace. Our job when we are representing listings is to help it stand out. And just because that hasn't necessarily been a challenge in the last 2 years doesn't mean it's not still a critical function of what we do. And one thing that I say a lot of times is the moment that the public starts to render us irrelevant to their sale is the moment that we are dead as an industry. And so that's why I have the perspective of, listen, this is a market shift. It's going to require a different approach to marketing than we've had in the last couple of years. And this is a good thing. This is our time to shine. This is when we get to find really creative ways to wow our clientele. This is also when we get to find ways to differentiate ourselves from our competition. But that means that the post and ghost, where we're posting a listing up on the MLS and just waiting for it to sell, that approach is no longer going to work. And so what I have been thinking about today, just for this Monday musing, is what are 3 things that we can be focusing on that we can control from the listing agent perspective to make sure that we are setting up ourselves and our clients for success in this new market. Just some perspective, I'm actively selling in the Phoenix, Scottsdale area, right? My husband and I are a small but mighty team. Here, our brokerage, we are with my home group. It's not our brokerage. We are hanging our license at My Home Group Real Estate out of Scottsdale. And we have listings that we're selling all the time. We're actively selling. So I'm in the trenches with you and I'm seeing this happening. And Phoenix also happens to be one of the top 5 most competitive markets in the country, or it has been. But the market shift has come here fast and furious, way faster than most have even anticipated. Our listing success rate across the board in Maricopa County, which by the way was the fastest growing by population county in the country since 2010, this county specifically is down to a 70% listing success rate. This is normalcy right? Like, for those of you who have been around for a while, you have seen this before, and this is nothing new. This is nothing scary. This is just reflective of a balanced real estate market. And we have, in many suburbs in Metro Phoenix, achieved a balanced market. And in many suburbs, we have actually already dipped into a buyer's market. And I know it happened really fast, and I know you might be having a little bit of whiplash from that. Like, believe me, I get it. It happened even faster than I totally anticipated. However, that means it's time to get back to basics. So what are some of the basics that we can do? Well, number one, the first thing that we can do to really be setting our sellers up and ourselves up for success is to set expectations. With 30% of listings choosing to either expire or cancel without accepting and executing an offer, 30%, that means that sellers have to adjust their expectations. And they are not going to do it on their own. That is your job. That is a part of sales. So as the real estate agent, like, our role is to come in and interpret the market data, which is why I talk about market data all the time on this channel. Our role is to come in and interpret the market data to our clientele to help them understand how it affects them personally. And so the best thing, number one, that we can be doing is to be setting expectations with our clients well in advance. And we have to understand what's the most important thing. So when we're thinking about prospective sellers on whether or not they, number one, ultimately choose to list, and number two, hire you to help them do it, their decision-making process is really going to be grounded in, are they trying to avoid pain or move towards pleasure? Okay, and so most sellers have been choosing to list because they're moving towards pleasure, and that would be the pleasure of selling at the top height of a market, capitalizing on huge price increases and gains, and being able to have their pick of 20 ultra accommodating offers. Now, most sellers are going to be making the decision to list more based out of a moving away from pain decision. So they have to sell because of a job relocation. They have to sell because the family is growing and they need more space. Or it might still be more pleasure related, but it's not necessarily rooted in the market conditions. Maybe like they're really excited to sell after, getting a new job locally, having a huge pay raise, and being able to finally move into that dream neighborhood that they've been eyeing. And at this point, they're excited for that move because they know they can actually buy it contingent without having to rely on their home selling first and having a bunch of cash on hand, right? So we have to understand those needs that our sellers have and be able to set their expectations accordingly. Your job is to come in and share how you can help them achieve that goal while helping them understanding what it's actually going to look like. And that's going to be the very first priority. And what this means is you have to know your prospects. You have to ask questions and listen more than you speak. And you have to meet with them sooner than they think they're ready to move. This is why we're having a lot of conversations with our database homeowners who have purchased within the last 18 months or further back. Regardless of whether or not they're looking to sell, we're still meeting with them to get an understanding of what their mind is on the market, if they have any questions, if they're hearing anything alarming in the news headlines, if they're thinking that they might want to sell in the next 12 months or more. And if they are, it's that point that we are having that conversation of, listen, if you're thinking about this, there's some things that you need to know. We're going to need to be taking a little bit more time to market your home properly. It's going to be more important to make sure the home is show ready and that you're taking care of any pre-inspection items, that sort of thing. The second thing you have to do is really make sure you're actually focusing on marketing the property. And you should be having a really cool marketing strategy nailed down that you can either present at the listing table or be ready to execute as soon as you take the listing live. So for example, pre-marketing for the last 2 years in my market seems to have been primarily like throwing it up on coming soon status and just like letting all the buzz kind of start from there. But now like having a coming soon listing is no longer the thing. Like, that's not an enticing offer for anybody because there are so many more listings on the market now. And so instead, you have to find a really cool way to market the property. And this is stuff that we're having conversations on in the Market Authority Academy every single week about how to drum up buzz on social media, or what kind of great events or benefits or initiatives we can be campaigning on with this listing to kind of stand out. And not only stand out, but also garner more listing opportunities while we're at it. Because one thing that we're really obsessed with in the Market Authority Academy is how do we take one deal and one opportunity and turn it into 5? Listings are a great tool to do that. And so are you thinking about different ways that you can be capitalizing on more sellers entering the market and getting more market share by getting more listings each time you get a sign in the ground? You have to be thinking about that, and you have to be planning ahead. Now, again, if you have a really cool market strategy that you get to present to your sellers, you should be using that as a selling tool. But again, you should have this pre-planned so that it's ready to execute. Now, the final thing that we could be really thinking about doing also kind of ties into the marketing strategy and speaking to your sellers, but it's really having a pre-planned pricing strategy and making sure that you have a lot of these items written down, like put into writing. So for example, if you are putting together your exclusive right to sell, your listing agreement, how are you putting in terms that are going to protect your investment on the marketing costs? For example, are you going to offer to pay for staging and photography and any other event-related expenses up front, and then see if your seller would reimburse a portion of that on the back end? Like, you have to start thinking about that. If you are definitely seeing that most homes in a neighborhood go through a price adjustment at 14 days, are you going to get that in writing with your seller that that is going to be the expectation if they don't receive an offer within 14 days? It's probably a good thing to do. There's a lot of different things that we can be kind of focusing on in terms of protecting ourselves, and also making sure that we have the plan super, super dialed in so that we are on the same page with our sellers every step of the way, and they know that we are in their corner. There's a way that you can be presenting this. There's language that you can be using that helps them understand that you're there with them every step of the way, and that you guys are making decisions together. They're not alone, and you're not out there going rogue, or even worse, leaving them hanging, right? So think about ways that you can be really pre-planning a lot of the decisions that are going to be taking place during the listing process. Because remember, just getting an active listing is half the battle. I'm going to point back to that 70% listing success rate in my market alone, which is, I believe, the 4th highest transaction volume annually in the country. Like, that's totally crazy. And so we have to be having those conversations and making it really clear with our seller that, hey, we got to put a game plan in place. We want to make sure that we agree on it together, and then that's how it's going to go. So there's no surprises down the way. I think that will help make sellers feel a lot more empowered in each transaction, and it will also help them feel like there wasn't a bait and switch. Because if you're just going in and saying, look, I'm going to be the agent who has a vast network and is going to syndicate your listing across all the different websites, and with those 2 things in place, we're going to sell your listing fast for top dollar. Like, no, that's probably not reality. And that's not the truth in a lot of situations. It's going to take a lot more to get our sellers what they want. And so have the courage to have those conversations up front, and trust that your sellers can make a well-educated decision if you give them the right information. I really hope that this helped give you something to chew on, right? And if you are loving this conversation, or if you want more tips, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear where your mind is at as the market continues to shift. And of course, if there's any way that I can support you, or if you would really like to take your business to the next level, definitely check out the show notes of this video for the Market Authority Academy. We are taking on agents into our coaching program, where we have a proprietary process that is designed to help you take your business to even more exciting new milestones on a 6-month basis. I mean, that's super cool, right? So definitely check out all this information, or all the information linked there, and I cannot wait to share more with you. Thanks so much for tuning in. Till next time, keep on crushing it.